Hello everyone, I am Joe Kendrick, a filmmaker and composer based here in Nashville, Tennessee. And welcome to another video on this YouTube channel that's completely dedicated to digital orchestral music, process of mixing, arranging, composing, and all things related to composing for me using the BBC Symphony Orchestra, using their Discover plugin. I work completely within FL Studio for reference. And without further ado, I just want to kind of get into analyzing an old piece of mine. I've done this before with another scoring contest I was involved in. I thought that'd be another good thing to look at here. I'm proud of this one. I'm a lot more proud of this one. I think it's a more memorable melody, and I just want to look at developing the motif, the way I orchestrate, my motivations for composing. You know, because I think part of this channel is not just getting into the technical stuff, but getting into the psychological stuff, because I think that's worth talking about as well, all things composing, because it really is, there's so many different processes. Of course, I talked about in the intro, it's mixing, it is arranging, and it's composing. And all three of those disciplines all involve different disciplines, but you put them together and there is a philosophy there, there's a psychology there, and there's a technical expertise there that are all required to do well, which is why I think I enjoy it, is because even just the act of composing is multidisciplinary. And to me, that just gives me a real thrill, and I think that, just a little behind the scenes info, I think that's part of what motivates me as an artist is getting to do different things and trying new things, different disciplines. And if I can kind of stretch my brain beyond just one thing, that's a little more exciting, and that's why I'm interested in filmmaking, which I think leads me to this project here. Something that excited me about this scoring contest. It's for the Spring short film, and if y'all use Blender, you might be familiar with that, because this was created by the Blender Institute using their software, is what I understand. And by the time that I was scoring this, I was really getting into Blender as a filmmaker, so it's kind of exciting to compose as a musician for a short film that I knew was being developed in software that I was learning, as a 3D artist. And so that kind of gave me a thrill as well. But without further ado, let's get into the video. And that's just the intro, y'all. Oh man, I'm so excited. Oh my God. Did something fall out of my chair? Did y'all hear that? A screw fell out of my chair. Y'all, this is why it is so important to donate to the cause, become a Patreon member, donate through the Coffee page. Screws are falling out of my chair. I'm doing my best, putting that one on the desk again. But yeah, let's talk about the intro of that song, the overture. I thought that title sequence there with the logos and with kind of the opening credits there, I thought that'd be a perfect way to introduce the motif. And I'm staying busy there, but that's my opportunity to establish the mood of the piece, start telling the story without distracting from the film. And I talked kind of in my last video where I was dissecting one of my scoring contests about this balance, right, of, composing in such a way where you're leaving room for the action. And sometimes the music takes center stage and sometimes it backs off and lets the action take center stage. And it's this kind of tug of war between those things. And so the opening credits are a great chance to say, now let's really let the music take center stage. And I love that. I think it's a dulcimer doing that arpeggio, that that thing. And I love the melody there. The shapes of your melodies are so important. And this is something that I think for a lot of musicians who've been doing it for a while, that's very intuitive. But I think for a young person, if you're figuring out just how to shape your melodies, I mean, of course, you have to follow your heart and you have to listen to that. And I think but it's also there are ways to think about shapes. And while I was composing this melody, you hear that bit where it's it's mostly in key, and then it does that da 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 da. And that's, I love that shift. And that's something that just took an intentional, I want to subvert the, kind of the direction it was going. And of course it's drawing from, the Harry Potter theme a little bit. That was something that I wanted to draw from intentionally for this piece, not to reference it directly, but to pull from that kind of language and the way that the Harry Potter theme uses, kind of, both melodies and chords that are out of the key that you're in. And it's just, you can be really creative if you don't limit yourself just to, notes within your key. So it's, I don't want to ever tell you when you're constructing a melody, never limit yourself, and I think just like, but I guess like something I like there, like I was talking about, was the shape of it. Is that there's a symmetry and how it comes back to the like, I really like that resolution at the end of that phrase. And to me, sometimes the hardest part is how you end a melodic phrase, and I'm still really proud of that. But I guess I want to talk about like the reason for my inspirations, right? Because I'm drawing from John Williams. I'm using a lot of flutes later. You hear a lot of flute runs, very John Williams-y. And I think Harry Potter was a reference because to me, as I was watching this film, I was like, this seems to be, it's all about kind of the magic of this world. There's natural forces as well. And so there's this kind of nature and a magical sense about nature at play. And to me, that's something that, thinking about like this whimsical mood, especially all through the perspective of this young girl, and so there's a childlike wonder in there as well. And so all those things are informing all of my musical decisions. I also, because of all of that storytelling aspect of it, I was like, to me, it feels almost like a folk story in this like people's relationship to the natural world. That's a big theme in a lot of folk stories. And so I wanted the music to have kind of a folk music feel to it as well. Just like a little bit in the melody. There's something you can hear. I think that I don't know, I want to feel reminiscent of like an older style of melody, something you would hear on older instruments. So I think that's enough out of the way. And I mean, I could talk too about like how that arrangement like blossoms in the overture. Let's listen to that again. Let's listen. You've introduced the melody, that main motif. Do 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 do. I love that. I wish my voice could do that. Oh man. I love that. All the instruments come in, giant strings, high strings, very romantic. And to me, like, that's just what I love about music. And when you could just blossom like that, and it takes some restraint, because you can't do that all the time, right? If it's all big, it won't feel big. It has to go small and then big, so you can feel that growth. And I wish I could just stay big the whole time, but yeah, I mean, that's not necessarily something super complex, but I just wanted to point that out. Let's keep going. Let's keep watching. Actually, before we keep listening to this piece here, I think it's time for a short message. So I'll talk to all of you again after the break. See you then. If you want to be able to support me as a creator, there's several ways that you can do that. Become a member on Patreon. It gives you access to exclusive bonus features and early access content in all of my filmmaking projects. Stuff like early access to scripts that I'm writing, storyboards, previs, rough cuts, and music that I compose. I'm a composer, and any music that you've heard in the background of this video was my music. So go to Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to music and type in Joe Kendrick. That's JoeKendrick. Look up Joe Kendrick on Spotify. Yeah, like you heard there, I think when I was writing it, if I'm not mistaken, I think I wrote the melody in reference to that section and then went back and added the overture to the beginning. I'm pretty sure that was my process. I mean, it's been 2 years since I wrote it, so there's some things I've forgotten. It's just like you hear that intentional do 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 do, and that syncs up with the hit of the putting the crystal in the staff there. I'm pretty sure it's the same note. I feel like the original like sound effect in there is like slightly out of tune, so it doesn't completely match. But even that is like, I feel like it's used to the advantage because I want it to kind of be an off note. Things are normal, things, there's just that little, I think it's a Celeste, doing that part. And and then you hear that do, like it's all within the key, and then that one note is out of key, and that's when something happens. So I don't know. I love that melody, and it's stripped back, but I don't know. Something I worry about is just because I love melodies like that and melody writing. I worry that makes my pieces too busy. But man, I think this piece is beautiful, so I don't even care. I think like that's just how I feel sometimes. To me, it moves me, and that's the ultimate goal of music. I'm sorry if it's too distracting. Let's keep going. Yeah, so I like that section as well, because it's almost melodically, it's nothing you haven't heard before, but the use of key changes and changing the arrangement, who's playing the melody, all that makes a difference. And I like this, that there's uncertainty here. She's looking around and something's happening, and you can't find a tonal center because the key is constantly changing there. To me, like that's a big... That was a big way to kind of communicate that there's something unsettling happening. The world is changing, and you can't stay rooted in one tonal key. So I really like that, and with those flute runs as well. All those also, I think, really communicate that sense of movement and change. And I think that's the point of the piece, right? Is movement and change, and that can be unsettling, but that can lead to harmony. So let's keep going and maybe see how that's addressed. Right, like also those woodwind runs are used to show the falling of this crystal, and I like that. Like it's literally a falling motion that and as it's falling, that's a very literal, compositional symmetry there between the visuals and the audio. But I also like that trick, right? Like I was saying, the woodwinds can mean multiple things, and musically, when you can have that depth, I'm not trying to sound pretentious, pat myself on the back, but I'm proud of this composition. Let's keep listening to it. This is the one section that I think that's a really beautiful part, but that's the part where I start to wonder if I went in the right direction. I'm not sure there was enough tension musically. It's a consistent tempo, and you get that dulcimer back, that and there's no percussion, right? And because there was those stomps, I didn't want to add drums that would feel too distracting with the stomps. I think the original music, this was for a scoring contest, and I think the original music of that piece had like a kind of taiko drum thing, where it's that something like that, right? There was movement and energy. And in retrospect, it's like I've been thinking about that section, and it's this chase. There's tension. There should be more stakes. And I think that I think I've done something to get there. There's consistent energy. There's movement. You feel that running motion, but I'm not sure that there's enough stakes musically. I'm not sure there's enough tension. It's still grounded, and it's a new key, but it stays in that key. It's a new melody, but it's not anything super complex. It doesn't it doesn't scare you with anything. And I think there should be tension there. You're running away from danger. And there's a couple of tricks there. There's that brass chromatic stuff that'll come in every now and then. That you know what I'm saying? And you'll get some of those. But I do, as I'm listening to that section, I do think now I would approach it differently. Maybe I'd try something more atonal. I would just try to make you really feel that there should be movement, there should be that chase. But I think I would play more with the rhythm there instead of having a consistent tonal rhythm thing like I'm doing with the dulcimer. I might play with drums, even though there's those stomps happening. I might try to even see if I could have timed those into some kind of percussive layer. Maybe I would have done lighter percussion, like a bongo or something that's off tempo. I don't know. It could have used something. And I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I do listen to that now watching the film, and I think it wasn't tense enough. I've talked before. It's I think music is all about tension and release, and this is just not enough tension. There's other parts of this piece I think that work, but this I think needed something else. I liked that, and I wonder too if the earlier part just could have used some of that. Like listening to that, it's like I said earlier, there's some of that, like the melody doesn't necessarily have a tonal center, or there's just some notes that feel out of key, and that I think that's a powerful thing for that. Like you can't get comfortable. So I like that do 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 do, and then it's a chord that doesn't quite fit. I don't know. I like that, and it's a new melody, and I do like the idea of there's uncomfortability because there's a new melody. I do a lot of repeating that motif, that da 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 da. A lot of that in this piece. I repeat that a lot in different ways. So I think it's nice to say here's a new melody to show that uncomfortability. But yeah, I mean, I still wonder like if there could have been some more percussive stuff. So a different kind of experimentation. I don't know. Something to think about. We all have regrets. I want to talk about that ending too, that because it resolves to a note that's completely out of key, and what that is like I knew I was trying to hit that note because there's a sound effect that kind of hits that note. So I was like, I have to get to it. Do I set up a key change that like more satisfyingly resolves to that note? I think it's a D, and I might have been in like B flat minor or something. I don't know. I don't have a piano on me. Maybe let's check. Let's actually check. So I was wrong. I didn't quite know the key, but it's a F minor to D minor. That's what it is, and that's totally out of key. And I love that minor third jump down. Oh man, I forgot about that. But yeah, like I knew I had to land on that D, and I like that I said, let's just like go from that F minor run down to D, because it still gets that subversion, and it's this moment of like, oh. Like, is it going to work? And I still like that. I think, I don't know, maybe there's some other composers that would have thought it would have been better to somehow get like a kind of 5-to-1 kind of progression there at the end to kind of more satisfyingly get to that D. But I kind of like that I like just kind of throwing it in, even though it's out of key. We had to get to that note. Let's just go there, and it's going to be a jump. But that act itself, because it's a jump out of key, creates a I don't know, a nice kind of subversion. Let's listen to the end of the piece. Sometimes composing is also knowing when not to compose. That whole section, I was like, I could score music there. I could say something about her looking for that dog, and there's this kind of like, oh no, where is he? Oh, there he is. And I could do something musically there, but it's like I've already been so musically intense for this whole piece. I didn't want to distract from the emotion of the moment by adding extra music. Sometimes I just want you to feel that on your own, and the quiet is also building up to the music. That there's a tension and release there as well. It's not just musically, but like just the absence of music, going to the presence of music can be a tension and release thing. I mean, you see this with horror movies all the time, right? They can have a soundtrack with a riser and like a lot of kind of tense stuff happening, but usually when the jump scare is about to happen is when the music completely cuts out and there's silence until the music comes back in. And that's when there's tension, is when there's complete silence. So I think these are tricks that you can use. Yeah, like I said, sometimes composing is about knowing when to be quiet. If you can hear kind of in the background there's a low woodwind that's just like one note off of the chord, and I really like that. It's like, let's bring the melodica back. I don't know if I can replicate it. It's been so long since I composed it, but I just want you to think about this. However it goes, there's like a, like that's in D minor, and while the D minor chord is playing, that note kind of starts on an E, Like it's like one note off, and there's like just a subtle little diatonic tension there, you know. I don't know, it's doing something there, and I like that I like that kind of tonal chordal complexity. I'm just saying words. I'm gonna sound pretentious. I'm just saying words. The point is, sometimes like using notes outside of the chord, there's a place for it. Don't be afraid to. That's all I'm saying. I could ramble, and I could be rambling Joe about that, but that's all I'm trying to say. Anyway, let's keep watching. I think that's so interesting because you have this moment of control being restored, but it's the same melody. But the difference is, I mean, the key and also this choir is in there. And it's just like, it's what you've heard before. And that creates a symmetry with the piece, right? It's like you've heard this melody from the start. And now nature is returning to a state, but there's order again. There was order in the beginning, and now there's order again, but with change, with growth. And I really like that, communicating all that musically and returning to the same music that you started with. I think is a powerful way of doing that. But there's one little thing before we kind of complete the overture with the outro music. So listen to this little part. There's a sigh of relief there too. Just like I said earlier, sometimes composing is knowing when to be quiet. So I left a little space there at the end where you could just say, all right, they did it. The the time to fear is over. You can breathe, and then the music will come back. But yeah, I like that little melody there at the end. That's actually a reference to a piece I composed in high school for a short film I was doing at the time. And so it's a reference to an old piece of mine, an old film. Don't look it up. It's trash. But I like that. I like the music of it, and maybe I'll do some videos of kind of responding to some of those older projects as well. There's new stuff I've made that I'm proud of, but I think it's always worth looking back at some of your old stuff, both because you're proud of it and to say what you've learned from it. That's something that I think it's great to keep looking back at that stuff and and just try to be honest with yourself about, like, do I still like this? What have I learned from it? / am I still in touch with what I liked about it at the time? And I think, like, thinking about all those things is really fun to go back to old projects like that. So I may do some more videos like that on the channel. Comment down below if you're interested in that. But yeah, I like that. It's a different melody. It's a different set of chords, and it's completely major. It's a major 1 to a major 2 is that main kind of idea there. And to me, it's just completely peaceful. That's what I'm trying to communicate. Let's listen to the ending now. Yeah, so to end the piece, we reiterate the overture, but now with a new section. Like I said, it's all about returning to order, but now with change. And to me, like, that was kind of what the film communicated to me. So musically, it's communicating that as well, because you have that section as well. I should keep a piano near me while I do this. I might rearrange the studio over here to accommodate for that. But anyway, for now, I have melodica, because you now have that B section that you haven't heard before in the whole piece. That something like that. And I really like, there's almost a, like I said, it's a folk song feel. It almost feels like a sailor song or a pirate song. And there's some element of their of that to it, I think, that I kind of like about it. But yeah, it's just like it's a little section, but continuing the overture now in a new way, in a new key. And I like this piece. To me, it's just, sometimes it's intangible to describe why you like a piece. To me, it's just, it sounds beautiful and it evokes emotionally what I want it to each time I listen. And I think it's because all the things I've talked about I think because I can look at the arrangement and I can see those decisions that work, but it's also just musically, I'm moved by the melody and the chords each time I listen to it. That soaring. Sometimes like a secret to writing powerful melodies is, I think, creating bigger intervals. There's jumps there. And when you sing along to that melody, you have to jump. That da 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 ya da. It's going up and down and up and down. And ba da 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 da. And then it comes back in the middle, right? I don't know. To me, I like that shape, that symmetry to that shape. And that's something I definitely think helps with beauty. I mean, sometimes it's hard to give advice about how to write pretty song. Sometimes that's completely intangible. And I don't want to try to tap into that, because I think some of that is completely just, you have to feel it. It has to be in your heart, and you have to express what's honest, what sounds right to your ear. I can't give advice on how to do that. But there are tricks, I think, to getting there. And I like that. I can listen to this piece and I can articulate some of those tricks. So, but I think without further ado, thank you all so much for watching. I've already told you can support me as a creator. So remember all of that. Become a member on Patreon if you want exclusive behind-the-scenes access to behind-the-scenes content. And listen to my music on Spotify or Apple Music, wherever you listen to music. Look up Joe Kendrick. That's JoeKendrick, wherever you listen to music. But without further ado, I'll let you go.